Hello there, and welcome to the second episode of Tostic Plays Kerbal Space Program, with me, Tostic. In the last episode, the very first one, we put a command pod on the runway, and we researched some extra rockets. Now it's time to build a rocket that'll get off the ground. So for that we go to the vehicle assembly building. There's our pod from before, and we make our rocket. This will be the version 1 rocket. So, under the Structure tab there should be a stack decoupler. Drag it underneath the command pod, click to put it in place. You'll notice that something new's appeared down here on the staging guide. That's a new stage. If we select the decoupler and drag it to merge it, then hitting space once will fire off the command capsule and deploy the parachute. It's worth mentioning that the bit that you carry on controlling is the bit that the arrow points towards. So, underneath our stack decoupler, let's put a couple of FLT400 fuel tanks and a rocket. Personally, I think that we'll use the T45 as opposed to the T30. The T45's a little bit heavier, but if we right click on it, it has gimballing. Now what gimballing does is it means that the exhaust can be fired out in a direction and it stops our rocket from falling over. Now we could use this to get off the ground, but why do that when we have solid fuel boosters, which are effectively giant fireworks? You light the touch paper, off they go. You can't affect the throttle or anything like that. So another decoupler and a big solid booster, because let's be silly about it. And again, I'm going to merge this decoupler with that engine in the staging. If we go to the Action Groups tab, for the Abort button, I'm going to add in the decouplers, decoupling, and shutting down the engine. Save our rocket and go to the launch pad. Inside our command capsule, oh, that's something that I forgot. Let's recover this vessel. We need to do some more science with it, don't we? Because inside the vehicle assembly building, under the Science tab, there are now mystery goo containers, which are an experiment. I tend to put these, 2 of them, so use X to make 2, and pointing down a bit, because they have a really high crash tolerance, so you can use them as brakes effectively. There we are. Oops, let's launch that. Where was I? Inside the command pod there's an invisible flywheel which stops your rocket from spinning out of control. Hit T to turn it on. This also uses electricity when it's adjusting the torque inside your aircraft, but doesn't really matter. Next, hold down Shift to put up the throttle. This doesn't do anything because none of our liquid engines have fired yet. Next up, space to fire the engine. While we're flying up into the air, right-clicking on one of these mysterious goo containers, and we've done some science. Keep the data, it's better than transmitting it. On the other hand, if we do a crew report, transmitting that's probably worth it. Look at us going up. And the solid fuel booster cuts out now, so spacebar again to decouple that stage and get flying. At about 10,000 we use the D button to angle ourselves at 45 degrees, heading east. That's because on the, Kerbin plane, everything seems to rotate counterclockwise. In order to escape the atmosphere, the apoapsis... Oh, this is the map view, by the way. You get to it by hitting M. The apoapsis needs to be above 69,000 in order to leave the atmosphere. There we are. Hit X to cut all of the engines. So we're going to reach space. Excellent. Now we're also going to try and hit orbit. Now, I'm no physicist, but my understanding of orbiting is that you're falling towards the ground, but you're going forward so fast that by the time you would have hit the ground, you're past it. That doesn't make any sense, but we need to go forwards faster in order to avoid hitting the ground. If we look at our trajectory, we can click Add Maneuver to bring up this Maneuver buttony thing. This one here is Burn Prograde, which means go faster, and if we burn enough, we reach an orbit. Something like that ought to do us. We probably won't have enough fuel to reach there, but no harm in trying. If we bring up the nav ball, it now has a blue marker next to the yellow one, so that's for our trajectory, the yellow one's to burn prograde. And that'll be in about 30 seconds. So in the next 30 seconds, we will observe the mysterious goo, keep the data, make a crew report, transmit that, and do an EVA. Unfortunately, you can't collect samples of a vacuum. 14 seconds left. Meh. I'm lazy. Let's burn. We might make it to orbit. I doubt it, though. No, we haven't quite made orbit. That's a bummer. What we can keep on doing, though, is EVA reports. At the moment we're over water, but later on we should be over a little bit of land. Hit space again to get rid of that previous stage. And use full stop to increase the time. Turn off the flywheel so don't use up too much electricity. And sooner or later there should be some nice re-entry effects. There we are. Doing an EVA at this point is not advisable. The parachute automatically deploys when the atmosphere is 0.1, something that you can adjust. and we're slowed by it. At about 600 meters above sea level, the altimeter up there is accurate as it's to water. The parachute should deploy. I'd warp down for when parachutes deploy and when you hit things, because warp speed affects physics. There we are, parachute deployed. Transmitting the old crew report. No point in doing another one, but we can do an EVA, a little bit cheeky. Speed up again until we hit the water. Splish splosh. We can make another crew report here and do another EVA and take a surface sample. Unfortunately, we can't get back in the pod because the hatch is at the bottom, but not to worry. If we recover the vessel, if we get Jebediah back, and if we go to the tracking station, select the V1 rocket and recover it for 43.2 science. Not too bad. Back to the main screen. Research and development. We can research general construction, which will get us radial decouplers, and the one that we're going to aim for are these fuel lines, but we don't yet have enough science for that, so they'll have to wait until the next episode. Thank you very much for listening, like and subscribe, and happy rocketeering.